There, of course, is plenty of news coming out of Nvidia's GTC event this week, and we're just going to cover one item here about a new design that started all the way back in November, December of last year when Nvidia announced a licensing deal with Groq. That's with a Q, not a K.
Yeah, not to be confused with Elon Musk and X's Groq AI chatbot over on the social media platform. This Groq is all about AI inference. That's the next big thing, AI inference in data centers.
This is something that we have been discussing with our semi-insiders. Make sure you check that out over at chipstockinvestor.com. And until April 15th, you have access to the Discord community. After that, Discord access is closed to new members, so get in before it closes.
And part of that discussion that we've been having over on Semi Insider is research in what Jensen Huang has called NVIDIA's 5-layer cake. They are involved at every layer of the AI data center design and construction and ongoing operation, from the power delivery, obviously the chips, to engineering the actual data center infrastructure itself, AI models, and then finally there at the top, applications and devices, which at the moment is the smallest market, but as time goes on, that is going to get a lot bigger. It will turn into a much more normal economic hierarchy, like we talk about here all the time at Chipstock Investor. And if you're grappling to understand the scope and the size of the numbers NVIDIA is dealing in these days, our supply chain tools can help out in that department. Actually, over a year ago, we broke down one of the things that makes NVIDIA special, and it's not just a fabless chip designer anymore, is it?
No, it is certainly not. In fact, NVIDIA is really good at monetizing the entire supply chain, all the way from the design to the final device. One of the terms used during NVIDIA's GTC was extreme co-design with their customers. What does that mean, Nick?
NVIDIA has all sorts of stuff that they design for their customers on their behalf, but many of those customers need custom solutions, and so NVIDIA is happy to help. But one of the ways that they monetize that co-design is when they're contributing IP or contributing engineering work, they ultimately get a cut. So again, not just a semiconductor designer, not a fabless chip designer like in the past. They have their hooks embedded throughout this entire AI data center supply chain. And as a result, Jensen increased the revenue opportunity outlook for NVIDIA yet again through the end of calendar year 2027.
This chart coming from the NVIDIA company page over on chipstockinvestor.com for our semi-insiders, showing the rapid acceleration in revenue growth over the last few years. And at the end of this most recent fiscal year, NVIDIA had $216 billion in revenue. $192 billion of that was from data centers. And this revenue expansion that Jensen mentioned was that it could exceed $1 trillion from 2025 through 2027. So over the next few years, he expects that revenue number to be over $1 trillion.
And we already talked about that recently. Our outlook for NVIDIA is 300, perhaps approaching $400 billion in revenue this year. And that would imply well in excess of $400 billion in revenue next year, the fiscal year that corresponds with calendar year 2027. Huge numbers being talked about here. Basically, another doubling in NVIDIA's revenue opportunity as of March 2026 compared to the previous outlook that was given through the end of this year. And so what exactly is driving this growth now? Let's talk about some of the new product announcements. The one in particular that Casey mentioned at the outset of this video is that NVIDIA Groq 3 LPX compute, which can now be paired with the Vera Rubin accelerated computing systems into a total rack scale solution. This first image is a teardown of specifically one of the Groq 3 LPX trays with 8 new NVIDIA Groq 3.
And in case you're wondering what an LPU is, language processing unit. There's a lot of PUs in this tray.
There are, but not a GPU. And that is where NVIDIA's networking systems come into play. So in layperson's terms, what NVIDIA is designing here is a rack of LPUs. That is the one there on the right, and specifically the LPU chip with all of the on-chip memory, SRAM, all the way there on the far right, networked together with a Vera Rubin computing rack on the left, and the new Rubin GPU co-packaged with lots of high bandwidth memory pictured there in the middle, just to the left of that Groq 3 LPU chip.
There's a fly flying right around the camera. Wanted to make a cameo. Maybe you're wondering, what is the point of connecting an LPU, a language processing unit, to one of NVIDIA's GPU systems, or any GPU systems for that matter? What is the benefit there?
In this little illustration NVIDIA put together there on the bottom, on the x-axis, the horizontal line, they have it labeled as interactivity or latency. Because there's all that SRAM crammed onto the LPU, that helps speed up the responsiveness for the user, which is an increasingly important thing for AI inference.
It's made to have more of a natural conversation, almost an immediate conversation, like a stream of thought versus reply and response.
Yes, and pair that though with NVIDIA's GPUs. There on the y-axis, the vertical line is throughput. How much work can the system get cranked out? And you pair the two together in this heterogeneous architecture, the new green line, and NVIDIA thinks pairing the two chips together both decreases the latency and increases the throughput for what the AI data center server rack can get accomplished. So they think it's a blending of strengths of both chips.
And I guess the ultimate goal for this, Nick, is increasing revenue.
Yeah, if NVIDIA can help its customers increase their data center revenue, that means NVIDIA can charge increasingly more for these systems. The ultimate pairing of the Groq 3 with NVIDIA's Vera Rubin means a lot more compute for AI inference, which means more revenue for those data center customers, especially the big hyperscalers, the big cloud companies. And NVIDIA thinks that this will ultimately mean a big 10x increase in revenue potential for them, from 30 billion with Blackwell to 300 billion now with the Vera Rubin plus the LPX, the Groq 3 LPU. So this is where those big numbers are coming from. When Jensen mentioned $1 trillion in revenue from 2025 to 2027, it has everything to do now with AI inference, getting those AI-powered software products into the hands of users and generating revenue for everybody.
So what does all this mean? Is NVIDIA a buy right now? We have another chart to show you from chipstockinvestor.com on one valuation metric, price to free cash flow.
When we talked about our initial baseline assumption for NVIDIA earlier this year, we talked about how this valuation metric will gradually normalize. So on a trailing 12-month basis, price to free cash flow still elevated, close to 50x, but expecting a really sizable increase again in free cash flow this year, perhaps a 60% or more increase in free cash flow. That should leave, theoretically, plenty of room for NVIDIA stock to rise our baseline, let's call it at the midpoint, 30% this year. That's what we're eyeing here. That allows for stock price appreciation, but also that valuation metric to continuously moderate from the high premium that has been in place there for the last few years. You can check out the previous videos we've done on that. Links to those in the description below. And don't forget, check out chipstockinvestor.com and Semiconductor Insider, where you can catch us for the rest of the conversation.
Take care, everybody. See you soon.